There's no shortage of things to love about Expedition 33, from its haunting score and emotionally complex characters to its ever-twisting dark narrative. But one element often overlooked is the Nevrons, the strange and surreal enemies scattered across the continent. Beneath their often unsettling appearances lies some of the game's most layered and imaginative lore. From cryptic nods to French culture and folklore, to flower buds with cannibalistic instincts, each Nevron tells a story, sometimes tragic, sometimes absurd, but always seemingly deliberate. Today we'll be taking a closer look at every standard Nevron in the game, exploring the lore in their designs, names, combat roles, and what they reveal about this fractured world. And to my French-speaking friends, sorry in advance for butchering the pronunciations. Now first up is the Démineur, which translates to minesweeper or bomb disposal technician. Pretty fitting since they lug around a giant naval mine on a chain like a birthday balloon. Pop that balloon and it takes some pretty big damage. Helpful when fighting a flying enemy that you can't hit with your skills. There's even a white Démineur who wants you to find its missing bomb. Sweet, and a little sad. Next we have Noir. It's the first true Nevron you encounter, even though it's in a cutscene. The name means black, and Noir is responsible for wiping out most of Expedition 33 upon landing on the shores of the continent. You'll return later for revenge, but you'll need to level up quite a bit first. These things hurt. Their attacks include high-powered beams, a gradient attack, and a chaining move that prevents you from dodging. This adds a little bit of weight to an already gruesome scene. Many expeditioners likely died chained in place. Later on, you'll encounter a white version of this Nevron, Blanche, who acts as a sort of caretaker for all of the white Nevrons. Vulester is the first flying Nevron you meet, which teaches you about the free aim shot mechanics. Its design is all sharp angles and geometric shapes. It comes from voler, which means to fly in French. Simple, effective, and a nice early game introduction to aerial threats. Your first real battle on the continent is against Lancelier, the lance-wielding Nevron that introduces you to combat mechanics. The name comes from lancier, French for lancer. Fighting these early on is an opportunity to learn parry and dodge timings and the basic rhythm of Expedition 33's battles. It's more tutorial than challenge, but it sets the overall tone well. This one took me longer than I'd like to admit to recognize the significance of its name. Portier means porter, or one who holds the door, and this Nevron is literally holding doors. This is the first sort of boss encounter you face in the game, and is where you start to learn Lune's stain mechanics. It's also where the chroma converter gets its first field test, which Lune is delighted to try out. These slippery little ball jugglers dart away if you get too close. You'll end up chasing them around the map like a playground bully. Once cornered, you'll find that they're surprisingly tough and soak up a lot of damage, hence the tank part of their name. But why do they shoot all these little metal balls at you? Well, it turns out pétanque comes from pétanque, a popular French sport, especially in southern France where Sandfall Interactive is based. The game is all about rolling or throwing balls to land closest to a smaller target ball. If you've ever seen or played bocce, it's somewhat similar. So really, pétanque isn't trying to kill you, it's just aggressively trying to play with you, and you're murdering it for loot. You monster. Next up, a trio of religiously inspired Nevrons. Bénitieux draws from the idea of blessing in Christianity, and that font-like bowl on its head definitely gives off baptismal vibes. It summons a spear and shoots bubbles at you from its bowl-shaped head. The best likely comes from abbé, meaning abbot. Its mitre-shaped head definitely evokes a clergy-like image. It charges you and swings a hidden axe and a brutal overhead attack. Évêque literally means bishop, and visually that's exactly what it looks like. This Nevron comes in fire, ice, and lightning varieties. Glissando is a giant rattlesnake-looking thing that moves wrong. In music, a glissando is a glide from one pitch to another. The word comes from the French glisser, meaning to slide. Maybe like a snake? Troubadour means minstrel, and this thing lives up to the name, in the most annoying way possible. It toots at you with its off-key horn, shields its allies, and throws off your parry timing with tricky attacks. There's a white version too, it's just tired of killing and wants to play music. You'll face it in a parrying minigame to earn a picto. Chorale translates to choir, and it's a little creepy once you notice why. It's got several of the same faces we see on Nevrons in the Seren area all over its body. Then there's ballet. As the name suggests, it dances. You'll encounter these in Seren's area, and several show up to support her in that boss fight. The danseuse, or dancer, appears in Frozen Hearts. It swaps between fire and ice based on the element you hit it with, like many of the enemies in this zone. Venture deeper in the Frozen Hearts, and you'll find a dance class run by a non-hostile version of this Nevron. The instructor flings attacks at you, you need to parry all of them, and if you succeed, you unlock one of the coolest outfits in the game for Lune. Let's see, I've done this so many times I could practically do it blindfolded. Here we have the Chapelier, or Hatter, which is another sort of human-looking Nevron. It's a flying enemy and rides a giant face like a hoverboard. It's dressed like quite the dapper little gentleman with its suit, top hat, and bow tie, and it has its mouth permanently frozen into a laughing grin. This guy likes to hit you with thankfully predictably timed swipes of its scythe, and it drops these dumb little hats on you. Tisseur translates to weaver, and this Nevron lives up to the name. It's essentially a giant complicated sewing machine. It's an optional boss you'll find before the Seren fight, quietly weaving when you encounter it. It's one of the few Nevrons that can curse your party, triggering a countdown to death. Defeating Tisseur makes the Seren battle easier, removing one more layered threat from that encounter. Urso describes Sprong as Klea's first Nevron, and it shows. Its design is abstract, chaotic, almost like a test run. And if you fight it too early, you get absolutely obliterated. It's hilarious and humbling. The cool part is that you can actually see a dead Sprong near the start of the game. In Spring Meadows, right after Gustav wakes up, it's splayed there across the rocks like a quiet bit of foreshadowing. Defeat it later and you'll earn the Cheater Picto, letting one of your characters take 2 turns in a row. The Peliran, meaning pilgrim, is first found in Frozen Hearts. Why is it named that? Well, take one look at its hat. What's harder to explain is the fact that it's wearing shorts. These next 3 Nevrons, Jar, Boutier, and Galt, all appear to be sculpted from clay, which ties directly into the small clay models you can find in Klea's room at the manor. Jar attacks with its light pole and is the first white Nevron you encounter, presenting you with your first moral dilemma: kill or spare the white Nevrons. Boutier, or Potter, is a meditative-looking Nevron that floats clay pots around itself. That seems kinda like, oh my god, they shoot lasers. Galt is a bit more straightforward. The name refers to a stiff, compact type of clay, and it attacks with a basic sword strike, not too threatening on its own. In the Yellow Harvest Zone, you'll find the remains of an expedition that tried to disguise themselves as these Nevrons. Spoiler, it didn't end too well. Glaze is French for clay, and this enemy is fascinating in a deeply unsettling way. Its body is fused with the corpses of dead expeditioners, an image that's both grotesque and powerful. You'll also encounter a smaller version, a sapling, which may or may not be a juvenile glaze. Now, we can't talk about dead expeditioners without talking about Creation, one of Renoir's masterpieces. You first face this horse-like Nevron during the painted Renoir boss fight. Straight out of a nightmare, it's composed almost entirely of dead expeditioners. It hoards a massive ball of chroma like some twisted treasure. Easily one of the most visually memorable enemies in the game, and a personal favorite. The Bourgeon is one of the bigger Nevrons in the game. In battle, it drools constantly, eats your party members, and spits digestive juices at you. Basically, it's gross, and its name means flower bud. Charming. One interesting detail that you don't really notice when fighting it are the vents on its back. They're reminiscent of coral and have bubbles lazily floating up from them. You'll also encounter a little white Bourgeon who wants to grow big and strong by eating the flesh of one of its own kind. Congratulations, you're now an accessory to cannibalism. Moissonneuse translates to Reaper, and this one is a standout. It's got a Midsummer meets Silent Hill sort of vibe. Floral, almost ceremonial in design, but paired with jerky, cracking movements that sound like bones snapping every time it takes a step. Creepy? Absolutely. Beautiful? Also yes. The Contortioniste is pure nightmare fuel. Similar to the Reaper, its movement feels pulled straight out of Silent Hill 2, with jerks and snaps that are deeply wrong. Think Voldo from Soul Calibur, but sped up and fused with a nightmare. After its first attack, its twitchiness only intensifies. The real kicker though is the eye. No matter where you go, even in free cam mode, it follows your every move. Ugh. The Cultist Reaper is another flying enemy and wields a scythe. Its body appears to be made of melted wax or bone or melted wax bone. It's hard to tell, but it's kind of unnerving either way. Then there's the Great Sword Cultist. This one stabs itself in the stomach, taking minor damage to gain shields and unleash sweeping attacks that hit your entire party. Next is the Luster. This little speed demon is all sharp edges and panic attacks. Its rapid, angular attacks whip the camera around so much, it's like you're getting hit by the camera. The pointed arms evoke Dead Space's necromorphs. An intentional nod, maybe? You'll find a clay model of Luster in the manor alongside some of the others. And then there's this friggin' guy, Grostet, which means big head. Creative. This guy is where Expedition 33 starts to really feel like a rhythm game. He attacks by bouncing on you. Once, then twice, then 3 times, all the way to 24 times. If you survive that, he self-destructs. It's hilarious and horrifying. The Orphelin, or Orphan, walks the uncanny valley line. They look eerily human and oddly cute somehow. They'll come at you with tools like hammers, ladles, and pliers. One friendly Orphelin shows up in the Reacher area. It doesn't fight, it just builds. It seems it was tied to Renoir somehow, though I was a bit unclear on exactly how. Let me know in the comments if you saw a connection I didn't. Chassier means stilt walker, and it wears the name well. Its limbs are long and stilting, and there's a glowing orb dangling from its head, giving it the look of an anglerfish. The mix of mechanical movement and eerie design makes them pretty unsettling. Ramasseur means gatherer, and this Nevron is found scavenging across the forgotten battlefield. It attacks you with the scavenged limbs of dead Nevrons, and it seems to have stitched together its own outfit from the dead remains of expeditioners. Look closely and you'll notice its hat is decorated with the armbands of different expeditions, one of the more quietly disturbing enemy designs in the game. Next we have some knightly and combat-themed Nevrons, the Chevalier, and Bushi, and Bouchelier. Oh god. Chevalier is the feminine form of knight, and these Nevrons carry themselves with a quiet confidence. While most Nevrons lunge or jump at you, the Chevalier calmly walks toward you like it knows it's going to win. The ceramic version is manageable, but the steel and gold variants present more of a challenge, where it really helps to have your parry timing down. The Chevalier appears mostly on the forgotten battlefield and comes in 3 flavors: hammer, sword, and spear. Later, you'll find a white Chevalier who's tired of war and wants to die. You can refuse, but come back later and you'll find its body run through, likely by its fellow Chevaliers. Bouchelier is a clever portmanteau of bouche and bouclier, shield, so mouth shield. I've seen the word buckler across many different games and never realized that its origin is likely from French. That's pretty neat. The Dueliste is one of the most memorable Nevrons in the game, both for the combat and its story placement. There's a lot of tension building up to this fight. The hopelessness Maëlle feels bubbles over right before the Dueliste attacks, then it sends her plummeting into a pool of blood and viscera. And then Verso's just like, ready? The name is a portmanteau, duel for its second phase where it draws another sword, and duelist. Quick aside here, as a new YouTube channel, your engagement helps a ton to make these videos visible to more people, so if you're enjoying this, consider a like or a comment. Thank you so much. Veilleur translates to watchman or night guard, and it's the worst. Tricky parry windows? Check. Constant, unavoidable blight? Double check. You can destroy the lamp to stop the blight, but only for the character that smashes it, and it's super annoying. Hexga is a rock-based Nevron that swings a massive stone club and can shield itself and its allies. The name refers to the hexagonal shapes in its design. You'll also encounter a white version later that seems utterly lost, desperate to be like its brethren, but clearly not made for violence. Next up, we have Brûleur and Cruller. Brûleur is another aquatic-type Nevron, that you meet in flying waters. Brûler means to burn in French, but I'm not quite sure why they went with that name. It doesn't have any fire attacks from what I remember. It could be that they were going with a play on words and just named it to be close to the word brawler, maybe? And then Cruller you first meet as a blacksmith in Flying Waters who isn't friendly, but you'll meet a somewhat friendlier Cruller blacksmith in a cave later on that you can buy weapons from, along with his Brûleur buddy. One of Renoir's creations, Aberration, shows up in Act 3, and you'll find quite a few of them in Lumiere alongside your raised chroma army. They're constructed from 2 outer humanoid parts flanking a core made of seemingly chroma and a steel sword. Their attacks are thankfully telegraphed, so they're not too difficult. Then there's Goblu. Its name is harder to pin down, maybe from globule meaning round. What's unique is that Goblu doesn't attack you outright, at least not until Gustave plucks the rose it's guarding. What's really interesting is that Maëlle does seem to recognize this creature, possibly some deja vu from Clea's painting and model back at the manor. Goblu attacks by sitting on you, and summoning flowers to power itself. Delightful. For many players, Lamp Master is the first fight that really spikes in difficulty. He lights up his lamps in a specific sequence. You memorize the pattern and hit them in the correct order. Mess up and you get punished with kind of a brutal attack. He also has a second phase that surprises many, and the lead up to the fight is pure tension. Lamps ignite as you walk by, and the sound they make is like a violin screech in a horror film. Scavenger is an optional boss in Red Harvest, and this fight is chaos. It makes your party dizzy, turns invisible, and summons floating masks that flicker in and out of existence. You need to destroy all the masks to make it reappear so you can keep beating on it. It's disorienting by design, and I found one of the more surreal fights in the game. Finally, we get to Clair, Obscur, and Clair Obscur. Named after the game itself, these 3 Nevrons are some of the most striking in both their design and theme. Clair Obscur or chiaroscuro refers to a painting technique that emphasizes stark contrasts between light and dark. Clair, or light, is a pale white Nevron focused on light-based attacks. Obscur, a shadowy Nevron using dark-based attacks. And then Clair Obscur is a fusion of the two, half light, half dark. The gooey core for these Nevrons seem to be the only thing that's barely holding them together. These mainly appear in the monolith and seem to be creations of Aline, the paintress, designed to protect her. After you defeat her, you can return to find a chromatic version of Clair Obscur, the Clair half now stained blood red. Bonus detail, you can spot an Obscur back at the manor, quietly watching. Then we have some Nevrons that didn't really seem to fit into any one category. Rocher is easy, it means rock, and this Nevron is quite literally a rock. No elaborate mechanics, no deeper lore, just a rock with legs. Moving on. Floating high in the sky of Act 2 is Serpent Fair, a long snake-like Nevron that's impossible to miss and impossible to reach until you can. Its name is a portmanteau of serpent and fair, lighthouse or beacon. Equal parts ominous and majestic, Serpent Fair represents one of the more visually iconic Nevrons in the game. A boss in the Frozen Hearts region, Gargant, is made of ice, broken train tracks, and a train engine for a head. The name is derived from the word gargantuan, probably named for its sheer size. Fun fact, the word gargantuan comes from a giant king named Gargantua in an old French novel. You'll defeat Gargant and earn Eternal Ice, which you can trade in Monoko Station for access to powerful weapons and Pictos. The Stalact is a Nevron seemingly made entirely of ice. Its name is likely shortened from stalactite, those spiky mineral formations found on the ceilings of caves. You defeat your first Stalact while Monoko hangs back and lets you do all the work. Then he rips off its foot and turns into a Stalact himself. I love how not even Verso understands how this works exactly. Next up is the Bressalure. This fiery Nevron appears in Frozen Hearts and might be a pun on brazier? Though if it's supposed to be a portmanteau, I couldn't figure out the second word. Either way, it's visually distinct, glowing from within, and hurls fire like it belongs nowhere near delicate ice-themed zones. So there you have it, every standard Nevron in the game, from clay-sculpted nightmares to giant bouncing heads and everything in between. If you enjoyed this deep dive, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments which Nevron creeped you out the most or cracked you up the hardest.